You woke up this morning with a roof over your head, food in your refrigerator, a phone in your hand that connects you to every human being on the planet. You have more comfort, more safety, and more convenience than any human who has ever lived. And yet something still feels wrong. You already know what that feeling is, you just don't know why it won't go away. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Your ancient ancestors, people who had no electricity, no medicine, no guaranteed meals, no protection from predators, were almost certainly happier than you. Not occasionally, consistently, structurally, in ways that your modern life has quietly dismantled without you ever noticing. And once you see what they had that you don't, you cannot unsee it. This is not a story about going back. It is a story about what your brain was actually built for. For most of human history, roughly 300,000 years, your ancestors lived in small bands of people, not towns, not cities, groups of between 20 and 150 individuals. They knew everyone around them by name, by face, by history. They knew who was trustworthy. They knew who told the best stories by the fire. They knew whose hands were skilled at making tools and whose eyes were sharp enough to track prey across dry grass. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent years studying this. His research produced what is now called Dunbar's number, the idea that the human brain is structurally capable of maintaining roughly 150 stable social relationships at once. That is exactly the size of the bands your ancestors lived in. Every single person around them fit inside the natural limit of what their brain could hold. They were never socially overwhelmed. They were never socially alone. They existed in a permanent state of belonging that you have probably only felt in brief, beautiful moments. Think about the last time you felt truly known, not liked, not followed, known. That feeling is ancient. Your brain was designed to live inside it full time. Your ancestors did not have money. They did not have mortgages, performance reviews, credit scores, or career ladders. What they had was contribution. Every single day, the things they did mattered immediately to the people directly around them. You tracked the deer and the group ate. You gathered the roots and the children were fed. You remembered which plants caused sickness and someone's life was saved. The feedback between effort and meaning was immediate, visible, and felt in the body. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi spent decades studying what he called flow, the state of complete absorption in a challenging, meaningful task. He found that people in flow reported some of the highest levels of well-being ever measured. Your ancestors did not call it flow. They just called it hunting. They called it weaving. They called it surviving together. They lived inside it almost constantly because the tasks they performed required everything they had and paid off in something real. You perform tasks too. You send emails, you fill spreadsheets, you sit in meetings. But the distance between your effort and its visible impact is so enormous that your brain can barely register it. You work for a company that serves customers you will never meet, in service of a product that produces a number on a quarterly report that affects a share price that influences a decision made by someone you have never seen. Your brain was not built for that chain. It was built to see the deer fall. It was built to feel the meaning immediately. Now think about stress. You probably believe that ancient life was more stressful than yours. You would be wrong in a very important way. Stress researcher Robert Sapolsky has spent decades studying stress in both primates and humans, and what he found is remarkable. Your ancestors experience acute stress. A predator appears. The body floods with adrenaline. You run or you fight. The predator is gone. The stress ends. The body recovers completely. That is what your stress system was designed for. Short bursts, real threats, complete resolution. What you experience is something entirely different. You experience chronic stress, deadlines that never fully arrive, social threats that never fully resolve, financial pressure that does not disappear after one successful hunt, emails that wait for you when you wake up, a performance review that is always 3 months away. Your body cannot tell the difference between a lion and a difficult conversation with your manager. Both trigger the same biochemical cascade. But the lion goes away, your manager does not. Your cortisol stays elevated for weeks, months, sometimes years. Sapolsky found that this kind of chronic low-grade stress is among the most physically and psychologically destructive forces a human body can face. It degrades your immune system, it disrupts your sleep, it shrinks the part of your brain responsible for memory and emotional regulation. Your ancestors were occasionally in mortal danger. You are in a state of perpetual mild alarm, and your brain cannot tell which one is worse. There is another thing your ancestors had that almost no one talks about. They had complete mastery of their immediate environment. They knew every tree, every trail, every water source, every dangerous animal within their territory. They understood the sky, the seasons, the plants, and the animals not as distant facts learned in school, but as intimate living knowledge embedded in the body through years of direct experience. Psychologists call this competence, the deep feeling of being genuinely skilled at the things your life actually requires. It is one of the 3 core psychological needs identified by researchers Edward Deci and Richard Ryan in their self-determination theory, a framework built over 4 decades of research across dozens of cultures. Competence, autonomy, connection. Your ancestors had all 3 in abundance. Their skills were real, physical, and undeniable. Their choices about how to spend each day were largely their own. And their connections, as you already know, were deep and constant. What do you have? You are probably highly skilled at a very narrow set of tasks that exist within a system you did not design and cannot control. Your autonomy is limited by policies, schedules, and financial obligations. And your connections, though they may be numerous on paper, are often thin, mediated by screens, and interrupted by the permanent distraction of a device in your pocket. Your ancestors also had something that the modern world has almost entirely destroyed. They had darkness. Every night, when the sun went down, the world went quiet and dark. The fire was the only light. The only sounds were the fire itself, the insects, and the people they loved. In that darkness, something extraordinary happened. They told stories. They sang. They ritually processed the events of the day. They slept when they were tired because there was nothing else to pull at their attention. Anthropologist Matthew Wolfmeyer has written about how pre-industrial sleep was radically different from yours. Longer, more social, more integrated into the rhythm of the natural world. Melatonin rose naturally with the darkness. Dreams were treated as meaningful. Rest was not something you earned after productivity. It was simply what you did when the sun went down. Today, your body is bathed in artificial light until midnight. Your melatonin is suppressed. Your sleep is fragmented. And you wonder why you wake up already tired. None of this means your ancestors' lives were easy. They buried children. They starved. They were killed by infections that you cure with a 5-day prescription. There was no anesthesia, no therapy, no protection from the random cruelties of the natural world. The point is not that their lives were better in every way. The point is that the specific things that generate human happiness, belonging, meaning, competence, autonomy, physical movement, deep rest, and genuine connection were structural features of their daily existence. They did not have to seek those things. They could not escape them. For you, every single one of those things is now optional. Everyone must be deliberately chosen, deliberately protected in a world designed to sell you a substitute. You have more than your ancestors could have imagined. You also have less of what your brain was built to run on. And deep in the part of you that was shaped by 300,000 years of living close to the earth, close to fire, close to the faces of people who truly knew you, that part already knows it. That is why you woke up this morning with everything you need and still felt something was missing. The missing thing is not a product. It is not a feature. It is not a subscription. It is the life your nervous system was designed for. And the first step toward it is simply knowing what it was.